No distress call ever left USS Indianapolis. Not because the danger was misunderstood, not because there was time to wait. The ship sank so quickly, and its communication spaces were damaged so severely that no confirmed emergency message reached another ship, aircraft, or shore station. The last known encounter before the sinking was almost ordinary. On July 29, 1945, the tank landing ship LST-779 saw a large American cruiser passing along the route toward the Philippines. The ships continued in opposite directions. About 11 hours later, Indianapolis was gone. For the men who survived the sinking, the silence became almost as important as the attack itself. No rescue force had been dispatched, no aircraft was searching for their position, and when the cruiser failed to arrive at Leyte, no immediate alarm was raised. The United States Navy had lost one of its most famous warships. For days, it did not know. USS Indianapolis was a Portland-class heavy cruiser, commissioned in 1932. During the Second World War, it served across the Pacific and became closely associated with Admiral Raymond Spruance, commander of the Fifth Fleet. It took part in major operations from the Aleutians to the Central Pacific. By the summer of 1945, the ship and its crew had already survived years of war. Then Indianapolis received a mission whose importance was hidden even from most of the people aboard. On July 16th, the cruiser departed San Francisco carrying components connected to the first atomic bomb that would later be used against Hiroshima. The cargo was delivered to Tinian on July 26th. Indianapolis had completed the secret assignment successfully. Afterward, the ship sailed to Guam. From Guam, it was ordered toward Leyte in the Philippines, where the crew was expected to prepare for further operations. The cruiser left on July 28th. It sailed alone across the Philippine Sea. The war was approaching its end, but the ocean was not safe. Japanese submarines were still operating. One of them was Daisen 58, commanded by Mochitsura Hashimoto. During the night of July 29th and the first minutes of July 30th, I-58 detected a large ship moving across its path. Indianapolis was traveling through darkness with visibility changing under the clouds. Shortly after midnight, Hashimoto ordered a spread of torpedoes fired. 2 struck the cruiser's starboard side. The first explosion tore into the forward part of the ship. The second caused further destruction closer to the center. Electric power failed in much of the cruiser. Internal communications broke down. Water entered rapidly. Indianapolis began to list. Captain Charles McVeigh was awakened by the explosions and reached the bridge. The ship was still moving forward, but it was already becoming difficult to control. Men attempted to reach their stations in darkness. Orders had to be passed without reliable internal communication. Survivor testimony later indicated that radio personnel tried to send an emergency message, but the damage had reached the systems they needed. The official historical record contains no confirmed distress transmission from Indianapolis. No receiving station preserved a contemporary message from the cruiser. There was no position followed by SOS, no request for assistance, no final sentence from the captain. The absence of that message is the central fact of the disaster. At approximately 12:15 in the morning, McVeigh gave the order to abandon ship. The cruiser had been hit only minutes earlier. Many life rafts and boats could not be launched. Some equipment was trapped. Some men never reached the open deck. The ship rolled heavily and disappeared beneath the surface in roughly 12 minutes. Hundreds of sailors and Marines were left in the Philippine Sea. They had life jackets, pieces of wreckage, floater nets, and a small number of rafts. Many were injured. Most had little or no fresh water, but they believed the Navy would soon know the ship was missing. Indianapolis was expected at Leyte. Its route and destination existed in naval records. The survivors could reasonably imagine that when the cruiser failed to arrive, someone would begin looking. That did not happen immediately. The movement reporting system used during the war did not require every overdue combat ship to trigger an automatic search. Different commands held different pieces of information. Messages about routing, arrival, and submarine activity were not combined into one clear picture. Indianapolis was expected, but its non-arrival did not produce the urgent response that the men in the water needed. The sea remained empty. One day passed, then another. The survivors tried to remain together. Groups drifted apart. Life jackets became less effective after long exposure. Heat during the day and cold at night weakened the men. Dehydration became severe. Some drank seawater and became confused. There were also sharks, but the later public memory of the disaster often allowed that single danger to overshadow everything else. Official histories and survivor accounts show a broader ordeal. Injuries, exposure, thirst, exhaustion, drowning, and the complete uncertainty of not knowing whether anyone was searching. There was still no message from Indianapolis, because there was no Indianapolis left to send one. The only possible signal was now the presence of the survivors themselves. On August 2nd, a Navy patrol aircraft crossed the area. The flight had not been sent to find the cruiser. Its crew noticed an oil slick below. Then they saw people in the water. The aircraft transmitted a report. This message, sent by the searchers rather than the lost ship, finally opened the rescue. Other aircraft were directed toward the position. A PBY Catalina flying boat arrived and began assisting the survivors. The pilot, Lieutenant Adrian Marks, brought the aircraft down onto the open sea, despite the risks to the plane. Men were taken aboard and placed wherever space could be found, including on the wings. The destroyer USS Cecil J. Doyle and other ships moved toward the area. Its captain used a searchlight as a beacon, pointing it upward so survivors could see that help was coming. Rescue operations continued through the night and into the following day. The final official count established that 1,195 sailors and Marines had been aboard Indianapolis. Only 316 survived. The loss became the greatest single loss of life at sea from one ship in the history of the United States Navy. Investigations began almost immediately. They examined the attack, the ship's route, the lack of escort, submarine warnings, the failure to report the cruiser overdue, the rescue delay, and Captain McVeigh's decisions. McVeigh was court-martialed and convicted of failing to zigzag, even though Hashimoto later stated that zigzagging would not have prevented him from attacking successfully. The treatment of McVeigh remained controversial for decades. In 2000, Congress passed a resolution stating that his record should reflect that he was exonerated for the loss of the ship. But the question of the missing distress call produced its own mythology. Years after the war, stories appeared claiming that stations had received emergency messages and ignored them. The Navy investigated those claims. Historians reviewing the surviving records found no corroborating contemporary evidence that a distress message from Indianapolis had been received. The more restrained conclusion is also the more powerful one. Men aboard the cruiser tried to respond to a rapidly collapsing emergency. but no verified call escaped the ship. The silence was real, and the systems around the ship failed to recognize what that silence meant. Decades later, another record helped narrow the final route. A log from LS T-779 documented its encounter with Indianapolis on July 29th. That entry gave researchers a more precise indication of where the cruiser had been before the attack. In August 2017, an expedition aboard the research vessel Petrel located the wreck more than 18,000 feet below the surface of the Philippine Sea. The ship remains a protected war grave. Its discovery did not produce a hidden final transmission. It confirmed the physical end of the route recorded in wartime documents. The archive of Indianapolis is therefore built around an absence. There are routing orders, ship logs, testimony from survivors, the interrogation of the commander of I-58, court records, rescue reports, photographs, and the wreck itself. But there is no authenticated final distress call from the cruiser. That is why this case belongs in the final message archive. Sometimes the message is a sentence preserved on paper. Sometimes it is a voice transmitted through static. And sometimes history turns on the message that never arrived. USS Indianapolis crossed another American ship on July 29, 1945. The encounter was recorded in a logbook. Then the cruiser entered the night. 2 torpedoes struck. The radios failed. The ship disappeared. And for the men waiting in the water, the final message was silence.